go through this real quick. Molly, I met Molly probably, I didn't even meet her. I met her online. I probably met her about 6 months ago. It was in regards to something. She said she was a Google expert and Google had flown her out. And I'm always just very cautious when a lot of these people in a lot of the groups will say this. But then I started digging into it and I'm like seeing some things that Molly was posting. And I was like, no, she actually seems legitimate, that she cares, unlike some of these other people. Then I got her resume, which is attached to that email I sent you. And I'm actually going to put this on the back end of the course. She's a Google product expert, but she's not just a Google product expert. Most of these guys are Google product experts or silver. Silver basically means you're just going in there answering some questions. You're just like you're a newbie, not even really, you're an expert, but not like on her level. On her level, she's, had Google fly her out to their headquarters. I mean, it's just, if you read through it, I mean, it's more than just she's a product expert. There's only 1,000 Google product gold experts in the entire world. Okay, that's first. She's a business advisor. She's a AdWords partner. She does the Google's Partners Connect event hosting. There's just tons and tons and tons of it. I'm going to let her talk about it, but she's actually been to the Google headquarters and everything. She's the woman I always recommend. She lives back in my hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. And basically, she's the one, if y'all ever have any issues, I tell all you go to her for readdressals, if you have questions, because if Google sees it come across with her name, or if I can't help you, she'll definitely be able to help you. So I'm going to let Molly go ahead and do presenting and everything on here. And we are recording this. So feel free, Molly, to go ahead and take over.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Molly Youngblood. I am based out of Jacksonville, Florida, like William mentioned. And I've been working with Google for several years. Originally, I started my agency back in 2009. I was just a website designer and developer and had a client, built him a website. And basically, it's like, I love the website, but I'm not getting any traffic from it. So I told him it's because it's not optimized for search. I explained to him what that was, and he said, let's just get it done. So I did. After I got his website SEO'd, about 4 months later, he called me up and he's like, I have some really great news. I said, perfect. I love great news. He goes, I just got a phone call from David Bridal Corporate. He's a local wedding DJ. And he said their DJ at the Avenues Mall quit. And so they did a Google search for wedding DJs, Jacksonville, Florida. And guess who they found? They found me. And he goes, because you SEO'd my website, I have a new job with David Bridal. So I have dozens of stories like that where I've gone in and helped people with SEO. So I'm doing my thing in Jacksonville, website designer, SEO, whatever. And then back in 2013, I got an email from Google one day. I almost fell out of my chair because I thought get an email from Google, you automatically suspect it, spammer. But I replied to it, and what they wanted is they said they had done a search for website agencies and they were looking to recruit people to, at the time, the Google Engage program. And I was like, sure, why not? And I did get a response from Google. The lady's name was Jennifer, and she was very legitimate. I checked out her email address. It wasn't at google.com email address. So I knew it was actually from them. And so about 3 months later, they changed the name of the program from Google Engage to Google Partners. And so that's when I kind of started my venture with Google Ads. I hadn't really used them before. Started answering questions in the community about SEO and Google Ads and website and social media and all of that blankets under digital marketing. And about 3 months later, I got another email from the same lady saying, hey, we see you're really answering a lot of questions. We'd like to spotlight you as a partner. I said, okay. So I sent them a little headshot and write up about myself. And about 3 or 4 days after they did their post in the community, I actually got a cake from Google with the old school Google logo on it, which was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting it. I have pictures, of course. I've documented my whole journey. And then I thought, oh, well, at the time they had this document with Google Partner Ambassadors. So these are people who really went above and beyond by answering questions, and it was a very exclusive organization. I thought, oh, if I just keep answering questions, maybe one day I'll become a Google ambassador. And so I did. I kept answering questions about a variety of topics, and then about 3.5 months later, I got another email saying, guess what? We want to make you an ambassador. I was like really excited because at the time Google asked me to sign an NDA, which I did, and I had to agree to hosting a quarterly hangout on air about Google Ads. And I thought, okay, whatever, and sent it back in. And Google actually sent me a video kit with a camera and a jacket, which was pretty cool. From there, I'd say about 2-3 months later, they had started the Google Small Business Community, and they kind of plucked some of the ambassadors from the Google Partners community into the Google Business Advisor. So I was a business advisor there for about 2 years. Same situation. They used to have a series called the Friday Fives, where people would post questions in the community, and they would pick 5 of them, and they would have us answer questions. They sent me a really nice banner. I've got, 3 or 4 different 12-foot banners. One says I'm certified for Google Ads. I got a Google Partner banner, Google Small Business Advisor banner, and I actually have a Grow with Google Partner banner. That's something else I participated with. But pretty much from there, I kept working with Google. About 2 months later, they made me a trusted verifier for Google My Business, which basically came with an app that I could go into any local business and verify them. From there, about 2 years later, they depreciated that program, but then they started a new program called the Grow with Google Partners program. So this program, where I am a high impact partner, I actually just got my a badge today, and I've gotten a certification from them. Basically deals with Google My Business listings. And that's where I come into play within this community, because in doing business and working with different clients, especially if it's local businesses, they really do depend on that Google My Business listing, to make sure it's optimized and make sure they're being found. So part of that, going back to being an ambassador, at the time I agreed to do the Hangout on Air, I didn't like video that much. I didn't like the way I looked or sounded on video. And so I thought, well, let me Google it. And so I Googled, how do you host a Hangout on Air? And I found an article on Forbes.com, was the ultimate guide to hosting a Hangout on Air. And so I started interacting with the moderator. And before I knew it, I was the co-host of the very first Hangouts on Air on Forbes.com, no pressure. And I thought, if I'm doing all this stuff with Google, I bet there's other people that have questions about this product. And so I found the Hangouts help forum, started answering questions there. Within a couple of days, the community manager for that product, he sent me an email. He's like, hey, you're doing really great. We're going to make you a rising star. And if you continue to answer quality questions with quality answers, then we'll make you a top contributor, and we'll fly you out to Google headquarters, because that's one of the purposes, is they fly all the top contributors out to Google every year, once a year. Normally is either a local meetup or it's a global meetup. So the first one I ever went to was back in 2016. I answered questions for probably about 5 or 6 more months, and then literally like a month before the summit was supposed to happen, my manager was like, hey, we're going to make you a top contributor, and guess what? You're going to get to come out here and meet me in person. And I thought, wow, it's really cool. And I remember my first trip to Google was, it was almost like, I don't know, it was very surreal. I couldn't believe I was actually on, Google's headquarter campus, and it was a really neat summit. I got to meet a lot of people, a lot of smart people. I got to interact with Googlers. And one of the things I really like about attending the summits is we learned the latest product updates and digital marketing strategies, like way before the public ever finds out about them. I can tell you back in 2018 was one of my most memorable summits, because it was a global summit. So there was literally people from all over the world. And one of the presentations that we watched was from the director of applied artificial intelligence. And his presentation was on BERT, which in the SEO world is a new algorithm that came out about a year and a half ago. So we learned about it about a year before it even rolled out. But some of the things that we do out there is we give them ideas. So we kind of take what's going on in the real world and be like, listen, this is how your product is performing in the real world. And one of the reasons I'm so interested in Google My Business is just because I know for myself personally, I've relied on it. I get a lot of traffic from my listing and people having questions about digital marketing. So from there, I've been out to Google headquarters for the last 5 years. Now, last year's was, unfortunately, it was a virtual summit because of COVID. So we didn't get to go onto campus, but the times that I've been there before has been super cool. I mean, honestly, in Mountain View, their offices are everywhere. They're in San Jose, Mountain View, San Francisco. Just like every corner you turn around, it's another Google office. But yeah, it's been really interesting just being in the program, because literally at any point, if I have a question, especially like if I have a question about Google My Business and I don't have an answer to it, I can reach out to one of my colleagues and be like, hey, can you help me with this? And that's why I got really involved with the reinstatements and optimizing listings and expedited verifications, because a lot of my experience, I see business owners struggling with that product because their listing gets suspended and they don't know what to do. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal. One of my colleagues had asked me if I would make a statement, because the reporter was doing an article on business owners' Google My Business listings being suspended and then being forced to use Google Ads to get back on page one of Google. And so since I work closely with Google Ads and I work closely with Google My Business, he thought I would be a good fit. And I did make a statement that, there were options for business owners. They don't have to use Google Ads. But if it's a client on a budget, I typically will advise them to primarily focus on ranking in the Google My Business Maps platform. And I had a client a couple years ago ask me straight up, just how do you rank in Google Maps? Like, how do you get in that local free pack? And during one of my trips up to Google, I ran into an engineer who worked with that product. And I just asked him, I said, how do you, what does Google consider a ranking factor, to get in the local map pack? And he said, primarily, they focus on pictures. He said they like to see at least 100 pictures or more, which I know that seems like a lot, but that's what he said. Videos, they like to see videos uploaded to the listing. They like to see the business owner responding to reviews. And then obviously, making sure the listing's complete, making sure everything's updated. And I see a lot of times business owners don't do that. They'll go in, they'll claim it, they'll verify it. And then, they might fill out, 5 or 6 fields, and then that's done. And that really is a detriment to them, because Google indexes everything in that listing. And so if say you leave the description out or you don't list your products or services, they have no idea of knowing, who you are or what you do. So, but that's kind of my story. I'm still in the program. I'm actually a product expert for several products. Gosh, I've done so many. I know Google Ads, Google My Business, Hangouts, Chat, Classic Hangouts, Android OS, Google Accounts, Google Fit, and Google Webmasters, and Google Search. So these are all different products that at some point or another I've contributed to.
So what we're going to do, we're going to let people ask some questions, Molly. They just lift up their hands, and basically we'll start down the list and introduce you, because everybody knows you. Everybody has your information, and it's in the back of the group. So I'm sure they got tons of questions for you today and stuff about GMB or all things Google. So go ahead, Trisha.
Sorry. Hi, thanks. Hi, Molly. Thanks so much. Have a question about reaching out to support. So I've got a Google My Business that I just got access to. And I found out when I did that I had access to the wrong one. And they had actually two, which made it a duplicate. And so when I first reached out to them, I didn't know. And they said, oh, there's a duplicate. Here's the correct one. You need to get access to it. I have since gotten access to the correct one. So they had given me a case number. And so I replied to the case number and said, okay, I have access to the correct one now. How do I get rid of and merge this duplicate? Because the duplicate evidently had content on it. So I wanted them to merge it and get rid of the duplicate. And my understanding is you're supposed to reply to those emails and keep it together in a chain. And I haven't heard back from them for a while. And I say for a while, since like Friday, but I don't know like now how things are, like how long should I wait before it's like, okay, there's a problem, go ahead and follow back up. Cause I know they're busy. I don't want to bug them.
Right. So in this particular scenario, if a business has two listings, they can't, that's against the rules.
Yeah.
So what I would advise doing is copying all the content from the listing that they had, and then moving it over to their new listing, and then going back and just marking that business, that original listing, marking that as closed. And I'll tell you, if they don't do it sooner than later, more than likely both of the listings will get suspended. Now, this is not like an actual Googler, like looking at the listing. They have a system set up that monitors the listings, and obviously there's millions of Google My Business listings, so it's not something that they're going to catch right away, but they will eventually catch it.
Okay, so the one that is because one of them is marked duplicate, and that was the one that I originally had access, and it just got marked duplicate. So instead of having them, because I've had them before, like pull stuff over to one and then get rid of the duplicate. So they won't do that. I need to just, because it's just some pictures, and honestly, if it's just a couple pictures, I'd rather just get rid of the duplicate. So should I just focus on that?
Yeah, that's the course of action I would take. Is any content that you want from the original listing, copy, paste it, save it, transfer it over to the new listing, and as soon as humanly possible, mark the original location as closed.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. I see a couple of questions coming in. I got a question here from Paul. He asked, when you say 100 photos, can they be stock photos, i.e. from Shutterstock? Yes, they can. They can. Now, I will say this, though. They prefer to see, especially if it's like a brick and mortar location, they prefer to see in-person photos, like if it's an office or maybe signage or people working in the office, maybe customers that are in the office. If they consent to having their picture taken, then yes, that's what they prefer to see.
Molly?
Yes.
I just have my hand up. So I was wondering, we actually have a non-for-profit, and I'm working with the SPCA here in Ontario, Canada, and we got the grant, and we rebranded from one domain under our Google G Suite, and we switched from, it was wellandspca.com to niagaraspca.com, and now they're having a problem saying that they can't confirm because the email has changed. But the domain is still under our G Suite, and those accounts are still active as aliases. Any suggestions of how? We keep reaching out and they keep sending us the same reply from the non-for-profit?
So I have experience with Google Grants management, and basically, essentially what happens is they base the entire grant on that email address, that original email address that you used or your organization used to get the grant. So probably what I would suggest doing is you may have to reapply for the grant, because I don't think there's a way, unless you have access to the current grant, you may have to just reapply for the grant itself because of the fact that the Gmail address changed, because they base the entire grant on that account.
But if I have the email account access like it's generated, none of the data was ever terminated from that account. It literally, we just switched, dropped in the different domain, like say it was John G, and then it was switched from Welland SPCA to Niagara SPCA. The data is still there, and we even showed them that, and they're still not allowing. And we can even, I'm gonna create, we have the email account recreated instead of it being an alias because of the changing of the domains. It's still, we have it active, so it's still an active email.
Yeah, even though that's the case, that's not how they work. You literally, with the Google Grant program, you get one shot. That's it. And if anything changes, you may as well just stop what you're doing and just start over again. And
Okay.
I know that because I've dealt with nonprofits that have either changed their Gmail address or they changed their domain, and they do not like that. They like consistency. So my advice would be, and I hate to, I hate to break the bad news to you, but I'm telling you, this is going to solve your problem. Just stop using the original one and apply for a new one. That's
Okay.
what I would recommend.
Thank you.
Sure. Got other questions here. I've got one from Habib. Says, can service area businesses have different GMB for different city? Or should they have one GMB and list the cities within one GMB? For that, I would say that the second option, because Google, the way that they work, even if it's the same company and they've got different locations in different cities, they want to see all those locations listed under one listing. I see some more hands here. Let's see, another question. Could you, says it's from Gary, could you also move it to the other one? I have reported this before and they seem to merge them. I've seen them merge them in the past, but normally for me, like I just recommended, if there is a duplicate listing, I would just do what I mentioned and get all the updated information on the current listing and then mark the other one as closed.
Andy, do you still have a question, bud?
I did, yeah. I wanted to just understand a little more about the two lawyer example that I'd gone through before. So Molly, I've got two lawyers in the same law firm, but they practice two different types of law. Located in the same building, same website. What's the best way to create a second GMB listing for the estate planning lawyer versus the criminal law lawyer?
The best way to handle that would be to create a practitioner listing. So a practitioner listing is a little bit different than a regular straight Google My Business listing. For example, I had a client once, she worked as a realtor for a real estate broker, but the real estate broker had already claimed their Google My Business listing. So she was trying to claim her name as an individual realtor at the same location, and her application kept getting denied because she was trying to apply as a regular straight Google My Business listing. So what I did is I verified that she was licensed and all that good stuff. And when I did that, I said, okay, let's create you a practitioner listing. And when we did that, her listing got approved. And that is the case for multiples for dentists or doctors or lawyers or realtors or any organization that's going to have individual practitioners in that space. Not only can the business claim the listing, but let's just say, like I had another scenario where it was a medical group and they had something like 8 different doctors, again, all practicing different forms of medicine. And so that's how we resolved that problem, is we had each one of those doctors claim their practitioner listing, which got the issue resolved. Because the way Google looks at it, a business is different than a practitioner. And they understand, yes, you can have multiple practitioners within one listing or within one organization, but they treat them a little bit differently.
So is that just an option when I go to set up the GMB for a practitioner listing?
Yes, if you Google it, there's actually a help article. You can just type Google My Business Practitioner Listing, and it'll give you all the guidelines on how to get this set up.
Okay, so I conceivably could have 3 GMBs then. One for the law firm, one for the criminal lawyer, and one for the estate planning. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Another question here, is there a standard checklist for? I'm assuming that is a checklist to optimize a listing. Primarily, like I said earlier, best practices is to get everything filled out. Business name, website, description, list your products or services. If they're using Google Ads, making sure that they're using their labels and that they've installed code. Making sure it's claimed verified. I can help with expedited verifications, and just basically following best practices.
Robbie, you had a question? All right, we'll come back to you, Robbie. Tricia.
I had a follow-up on the question with that Andy had on the lawyer. So this is on realtors. So and realtors do things a bit different. So there's usually your broker, like let's just say Metro Brokers. And then you'll have agents, and typically like the agents though, to separate themselves out, it'll be like Tricia's Realty Group or something like that. And then it'll be me. So I can have like Tricia's Realty Group has a Google My Business, but then I wouldn't have a separate one, would I? Does that?
Yeah, so in the scenario of realtors, the realty company or the real estate broker, they can claim their listing.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any practitioners within that listing, kind of like with the lawyer scenario, they also can have a practitioner listing. But as I mentioned earlier, the difference between the two is Google acknowledges the business listing as a business listing, and then they acknowledge the practitioner listing as just a practitioner at that same location. That's how they differentiate between the two.
Okay. I guess the way brokers here in Georgia, they have so many different ways, like there's 3 levels usually. So and I'm just not sure if I understand it, that all 3 levels can have a listing.
Yeah, any practitioner within that business can have a listing. It doesn't matter if they're like a senior medical director all the way down to a nurse.
So like most of them have, like, you've got your broker, but like all of the different agents have their own, like, let's say LLC company or something as well. They're their individual business to differentiate themselves. And then
in that particular scenario, if they are their own individual businesses that maybe they service under this brokerage firm, then they would be able to have their own Google My Business listing, because they are considered a separate entity from the original real estate broker.
And then the practitioners under that can too?
Yes.
Ah, okay. All
so
right.
Basically the structure is this. The brokerage firm is its own business. So they can claim their Google My Business listing. And then under that, you have practitioners that maybe work in that physical location. So in that instance, they would have a practitioner listing. However, realtors that are their own entities, they've got an LLC or whatever, they've got their own business, but they work with the broker, they would be eligible to have their own Google My Business listing, because they would be considered a separate business.
Okay. And then they can also have a practitioner listing too.
Yes, if they have practitioners that work underneath their LLC, then yes, they can have practitioner listings.
Okay, thanks. That helps.
So here's 2 other questions for you, Molly, that are coming from the chat. One of which she goes, okay, I have a ranking Google My Business with an old business name. What's the safest way to change it to align with my website and my new or current business name? Can I change it without losing my top 3 ranking?
That's an interesting question. What I would do in that particular scenario is I would gather documentation and I would send it through the redressal form, because anytime there's information that mostly the redressal form is used for spammers. However, it's also used if something major changes, like the name of your business. So that's what I would do is I would use the redressal form and I would make sure and have either a lease or deed or utility bill or business license with that new name. Preferably if you have like a DBA registered with a governing entity, I would include that as well. And then if it's a brick and mortar location, I would definitely recommend pictures of signage, because submitting all that information is going to let them know, hey, you know, I want to change it. Here's my documentation that I am really this new business name.
Oh, thanks.
The next one's from Harley. She actually owns a pressure washing company. That's one of the companies I know she has. She has a service area business, or SOB. Do you fill out category and product sections? An example would be main category pressure washing, then break it down into products such as driveway cleaning, house washing, patio paver cleaning, etc.
Yes, that's exactly what I would do, because even though it's a service area based, Google, in terms of categories, they really like to see one main category. And the mistake I see people making is they'll go in and they'll put, you know, 5, 6, 7 categories, and that usually will lead to a suspension. But then alternatively, yes, I would advise taking all the services and listing them individually. I am a service area based business, and that's how I set my listing up.
All right, Ruben, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, William. Hey, Molly.
Hey.
I have a couple of clients that with COVID and everything, they're starting new businesses and straight from scratch, getting new Gmail accounts, signing up, you know, filling out the GMB completely. And when they get postcards, they've been getting suspended right away. Is a new Gmail account risky in Google's eyes, right? Do they want to see longevity before somebody sets up a GMB?
Not necessarily, no. In terms of a new business being set up and them getting the postcard and trying to get verified and then getting suspended, I would suspect that there's something not set up correctly on the listing. I've done expedited verifications before, and I've had that happen, and turned out that after I went back and looked at the listing itself, there was something out of sorts that caused the listing. So that's what I would say is there's something on the listing itself that violates their terms of service.
Okay, thank you.
Sean.
Sure.
Got a question, Sean? Okay, Marcin.
Yep. I got the same problem. I sent the postcard for over 10 GMBs, and all of them get suspended right away. And I fill up everything. I try keep to, I think about everything. I try with the old Gmail, with new Gmail, and still was the problem. So what do you think that Google is the first thing they look and they think is a spam because they suspending the listing right away? Can be the case about the category, that the category is a spam. The category I was sending, it was house cleaning. So is it possible that is about the category?
Certainly is. It also would depend on the other types of businesses that you're sending in. So I had a client once who she was based out of Chicago, and she had multiple businesses that were similar. I think we'll just use house cleaning as a main topic. So I went ahead and I sent in the expedited verifications for all of them, and exactly the same thing happened to her that's happened to you. So it could be one of the things that you could consider doing is, instead of trying to send them in all at once, is I would space them out a little bit, because if you send in multiple Google My Business verifications for the same entry, they'll look at that like, hey, they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes, and they'll just send them.
Okay, do you think they checking IP addresses of the website and owners of the domain?
No, not necessarily. I mean, they will examine the website to make sure it's legitimate, but they're not going to go into what the IP address is. They're mainly trying to make sure that it follows their terms of service.
Okay, but the suspension happening like in a second after I'm putting the pin, and I was sending them in different time. It's not like I sent 10 of them in one time. It was different time. I tried again and again. I even tried from it was actually Chicago area as well. I asked even friends from Chicago to do it because I live in Florida, and still that happened.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could suggest is I could take a look at it, because without looking at what's going on, I don't have an answer for you other than there's something about the listing that violates their terms of service, and that's why it's getting suspended.
Okay, and I have another question. There is many listings when they like stuffing the keywords in a company name. It's like a 10 words 10 words company name, and of course they spamming because the company name, if I visit the website, is different. And so many times I try report them, and they still there. How I can report spammy listings to vanish? When I was doing that over a year ago, usually after I report the spam, they vanish right away. Right now, any report I'm trying to do, it's not working.
I'm sorry, what was that? My daughter walked into the room. I had to mute myself for a second.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about, I'm asking when there is some spammy listings with the stuffing keywords in a company name, like they have a 10 keywords in a company name, I'm trying report the spam and it doesn't work. When I was doing that over a year ago, it worked right away. Right now, I try so many times for so many businesses, and not even one gets suspended. All of them, they still there.
Yes. So what I would do in that particular scenario, there's a couple things you can do. The first thing you can do is to report the business via the redressal form and inform them, hey, this listing, and you'll have to put the listing URL there to say, hey, this listing's headline is using keyword stuffing. And in that instance, that will get their attention. Another thing you can do is if you're logged into Google and you go to their listing, you can actually report the listing, and you can put in your comments as to why you're reporting it.
And like I said, I did report them many listing many times, and they still there.
Then I would fill out the redressal form, because that addresses spam and
okay, yes, and I did the form as well then again, and still there. So, and when I was doing over a year ago, there wasn't the problem. The problem happened this year, for last 12 months, let's say.
Yeah, the only thing I can suggest is I could look into it for you, but I mean, those are the only two ways I know to report that type of keyword stuffing.
And Marcin, her contact information is in the back end of the group, and I can send it to you. Just drop me a message and I'll have you contact her directly.
And I just want to throw this out there. I have to go in 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was going to be so long.
No, it's okay.
But I've got to help my daughter get ready for school and all that stuff.
Yeah. A couple of more. That's all.
Yeah, a couple more, and then that'll.
And then I'll take it from there.
Do this again maybe next week or the following week. I don't know.
Yeah, we do it right here Monday through Friday. I'm gonna get Devon and Jarek because they haven't had a question yet. So Devon, go ahead.
Hey, a quick question, Molly. When you were talking about submitting the photos before that Google likes to see 100 plus, now I work with a lot of junk removal business owners. If I was to upload these pictures online, is there a certain amount that you would suggest that I upload per day? And I don't want to just photo dump everything onto there. I didn't know if that's anything that you could speak on.
Yeah, I definitely would not try and upload 25 pictures a day, because that's gonna cause the system to be like, hey, what's going on with this listing? I would probably recommend one a day, maybe 2 a day.
Okay, that's what I'm doing right now. So perfect.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay.
All right,
thank you.
Jarek, go ahead.
I got a quick question. If you're an agency that's helping other businesses set up their GMB, if you're claiming multiple businesses from within the same Gmail account, can that cause a problem for you because you're claiming multiple accounts and you're managing multiple accounts? Should you have a separate Gmail account for each of them, or it doesn't really matter?
So the way I had this question last week, so what I do is I have my own Google My Business dashboard because I'm an agency that manages GMBs too. And what I recommend is that every single business owner have their own separate Gmail associated with their own Google My Business account. And then once they're ready for you to manage their account, they can add you as a manager. There's a section on the left-hand side. It says users. It's all the way at the bottom of the left-hand menu. And then all you have to do is, well, all they have to do is you just say, hey, add me as a manager, and then send them your Gmail account. They go in, they go to the users, they add you as a manager, and there's an option for them to put your Gmail account in, and then they can select what role you're going to play, and then they send it out, and then once they send it out, you'll get an email from Google My Business saying, hey, ABC company is inviting you to manage their listing. And you just go in, there's a link, you click it, a little pop-up will come up, and you just click accept, and then the listing should appear in your dashboard. But I always keep everything separated. Always keep everything separated, because I had a client last week that's what they were doing. They were trying to manage all the listings under their Gmail account, and that definitely could cause problems in the future. So my advice is to keep everything separate.
Could they ever suspend multiple accounts because you're managing, like, let's say I'm managing 50 accounts or 40 accounts. Could they ever just suspend all of the accounts because of one account being linked to them, or not really? Like if they suspend a GMB, it's usually one at a time.
Yeah, I've never heard of that happening. Certainly they could in theory, because they primarily try to associate one Gmail account with one Google My Business account. They just keep it very, very simple. And that's the whole reason why they have the option for the business owner to add managers, is because they want, and I'll tell you another scenario. There's another reason why. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've had a business owner come to me and, oh, I had ABC marketing company claim my business for me. And well, we parted ways and I can't get access to my listing. And so basically what the agency does, it could be over money, it could be over whatever, who cares. But and I've asked a Googler this, and they said that the only thing that can be done in that scenario is if a Google My Business listing has been hijacked, is the owner can send a request to manage the listing. But if the agency doesn't approve it, then you're just SOL. You've lost your listing.
Can I say something about that, Molly? I read on Google and the instruction, it says that if an owner asks from an agency the listing, they have to give it back immediately. It's on Google's terms of how you need to work. Sorry for saying that. And I had that issue the other day, and I asked for an owner, I asked the listing from an agency, and they immediately gave it to me. They made me an owner. There were owners, and the owner was an admin, and they made him an owner straight away, like no questions asked.
It depends on the agency. I mean, I've had agencies in the past that they would cooperate and they would hand the listing back over. And then I've had instances where the business owner would be like, I've sent them emails, I've tried calling, I've requested access, and they never give them access, and they basically are done. And once that's done, I was speaking with a Googler about this, and they said, well, once it's done, there's nothing we can do about it, because originally the listing was claimed by the agency. It wasn't claimed by the business owner.
Only thing you can do really is take them to court. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's about it.
And I've had many clients come to me with that same issue because they let some shady web designer or agency come in there and claim their listing or create their listing. Even worse, they create the listing and then give the actual owner just management access. And then whenever they part ways, whatever reason, money or whatever, and then they won't give the person their actual listing back. And half the time when they won't give it back, they're already in the top 3. So obviously they want it. And when they won't give it back, they try to do the readdressal and everything else, and it doesn't work. The only thing I've ever seen work is actually take their ass to court, or at least send them you could find out really how far someone's willing to take it by having a nice, good lawyer send them a cease and desist letter and see if they respond. If they respond, they might be able to work it out. Sometimes you got to offer them cash to get it back. But unfortunately, that's just part of learning how not to do things in business.
William,
I've
really
seen,
quick.
yep.
I'm sorry, I've got to go for now.
It's okay. I
but-
appreciate it. We'll have you back on again, Molly, probably next week or something, because I know they got tons and tons of questions. So, and
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I
and I've-
appreciate it. Thanks.
and I've
Thank you
dropped
for your time.
Molly's email in the chat, so y'all all have it, and it's also in the Google Drive document as well. So, but I will talk to you soon, Molly, and we appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Brock. So yeah, and then the other thing I'll see people do, web designers in specific, is they'll have these, legal binding contracts that they actually own the website, that they physically own the website, that they own all the content on the website, et cetera, et cetera. And then when someone wants to leave, they can't leave unless they pay them money and all this other stuff. So it's the same crooked, shady stuff, but there are ways around that one at least. So so let's go ahead.
I just want to follow up on that. So I want to clarify the difference between owning a GMB and managing a GMB. You don't want to, quote unquote, own a bunch of GMBs under the same Gmail account. You want to manage. If you're an agency, you can manage a bunch of.
Each GMB should have their own Gmail account.
Exactly. So as a manager, though,
you can manage them, but don't ever do it all on. Don't ever all have them underneath one Gmail account. So.
Right. Perfect. That's awesome. That's what I needed to clarify.
And I have seen, I have seen people, quote unquote, own them all underneath one Gmail account, and then when one or two of them get knocked out and suspended, all of them get knocked out. I have seen that happen, at least not for me, but people coming to me and on advice on it. So, Marcin, go ahead. You had your hand raised up. You disappeared on me, brother.
Yeah, actually, about this what you was talking about. It's some agency don't want to give back the ownership of the GMB. You can threat them that you're gonna sue them not only about the GMB but about the money what you're losing every day.
That's what I'm saying. For me, and I don't.
That is good enough, because I've been in similar situation. For a few years I got SEO agency and I got so good contract. It was actually other way around. I just treating the clients, they're gonna pay, and my attorney friend will just send them the letter, and they usually they pay right away.
Yeah, I just use it kind of a last resort, just to see, as playing Russian roulette, just see how far they'll take it. And then if they're willing to, if you send them the letter and they respond, generally they're willing to give you the GMB and not take it too far when they actually realize you're serious and you have the means and the necessary ability to do so. So,
I have another question. About this all GMB getting suspended when I sending the postcard. Do you think can be issue with the phone numbers? They're from one place, they're very close phone numbers. Can be the issue.
Are you getting the phone numbers from a specific supplier?
Yes, from one supplier. Yeah, and
if that's the only consistency, then I would try doing so differently. For instance, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people will say you can't use virtual offices, which I would tell you that's completely hogwash, because it depends on where you're getting them for, especially for your rank and rent people. If you're getting them from, let's say, one of the bigger, well-known virtual offices places, yes, they're going to be suspended almost every time. But if you go to a little known one, if you go to a smaller business that ain't known as well, generally they'll pass through no problem.
No, addresses I'm getting from private homeowners where there is no
Oh, no,
other
no, no,
business.
no, 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 no. I'm just comparing them, and the same thing
Oh,
with
you
the
just
phone.
comparing.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the phone number. If the phone number's from a rather large or let's say blacklisted provider, then you might have to try a different phone number. Is all I'm saying. Provider, and then see if that works, and let me know. I'd be curious.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna make it like 20, send 20 posters right now from different IPs. So actually, I'm gonna use my friends' houses, a device, send it different for different categories, make it test because I'm really pissed of that because I got so I can get so many addresses with no problem, and all of them getting suspended. So
Yeah, I had someone else try that in Canada. So let me sorry, see. Naos, what's up?
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, sorry I was late, and I didn't know it was Molly because I had a customer that I had a call with, and I didn't know it was Molly. And when I saw, I was rushing.
Yeah, Anthony wasn't able to make it either. He's in the middle of selling his house. He's getting ready to start traveling. So,
but this thing with the GMBs, it's like too much, and exactly as you said, that you need, because I'm a lawyer in Greece. But I'm not a lawyer anymore here. I'm a marketer now. So I left my career behind. But what I wanted to say is that this thing, it says on the direction of Google that they have to give, if you are a manager and you are the legal owner, they have to give it back. And maybe there is a way for you to go to Google and say this person is an agency and not giving.
No. Okay, that's a totally different situation. Okay, so I think I see what you're saying. Let me put it this way. So you have a manager, right? And they manage it, and they're holding it hostage from the quote unquote, from the real owner, right? But there is always a real owner associated with the account. Let's say you have a real owner and the agency working in cahoots together, and they own it and manage it, and you're down here and you don't own it, but they've only given you management access, right?
Yes, exactly.
Then in that case, that's a totally different situation. The agency only has management. Yeah, they would have to give the original owner access to it, but you're not. The problem is you're not an actual owner. If you're not the actual owner, I see what you're saying, but and if you are the actual owner, and let's say an agent, but if the agency created it, the agency owns it. It's like this. You'll hear this a lot in web and SEO too. I'll see this in contracts all the time. You don't need to buy your domain name. We'll buy it for you. That's like saying, for me, I mean, I've been in business for a while, so that'd be like, someone telling me, oh, don't worry about it. I'll buy your LLC for you. As a lawyer, I mean, come on. I mean, what type of shenanigans that can be pulled into with doing that? He owns the LLC. He owns everything about nothing you own. You're doing the work, and you're doing everything to grow the business, but you don't own it. That's the problem with a lot of them. They'll do a lot of this. So, and I see it almost on a weekly basis. So it's been,
Can I ask you something? If you duplicate the listing and you create a duplicate, and then they creates a conflict, again, the one that is listed first has priority, right?
Priority. I would just go straight to a lawyer. Maybe think I'm sue happy. I've told people that have accused me of stuff, even in the SEO world. I said, take me to a lawyer. Do it. Unlike you, I'll do it. Because I know the facts, facts and proof and all that stuff. And you can't, it's just, some people just are idiotic and, when it comes to the law. So let's go over to Brock.
Okay, so regarding practitioner GMBs and with your experience of this, So I know we did a little private chat, and now you got my mind buzzing. So again, I've got a chiropractor that I worked with in the past. They've got the practice. They've got 2 quote unquote practitioners. Now, I would like to hear your input, kind of pros and cons of like setting that up. Like I could see me separating them out as far as categories and like some specializations that they do. But essentially, like I got to have 3 GMBs in the one location to help drive more traffic for their for their specialties. But then like, I also don't want it to like hinder them, like either competing against themselves or causing confusion.
We call it cannibalizations, where basically one listing is going to, pretty much take over or outrank another listing of your own.
Right.
So for example, and I'll give you for an example, when I was in Jacksonville, I had 5 out of 20 plus years experience, and no one wants to believe me, but whatever, 20 plus years experience in SEO, not GMB, but in SEO specifically. 5 to almost 6 years of that experience came specifically from the healthcare industry. So when I came in, he had 1 listing. When I left, we had 80 plus listings. Okay.
Whoa.
All of which had their own website, their own SEO campaigns, their own backlinking strategies, their own blogs, everything. Now, at that practice, when I started, we had, I think, 2 doctors. When I left, we had, let's say, 12. It was more than 10. I'll put it that way. We got in double digits. And then we had nurses, and we had, of course, our regular staff, blah, blah, blah. We had multiple, businesses within it. We even went so far as we started a medical marketing practice, because me and him were both business-minded, thought business-minded. This is why I stayed there I've never stayed at a quote unquote job for longer than 2 years, because I learn and then leave, but we worked together.
Right.
And then we were a lot alike. And, I helped make him a lot of money. And we literally, for instance, you had the pain clinic, you had the primary care, you had the lung clinic, we had the medical laser hair removal, we had the nail salon, we had the cafe, but all of the medical aspect of it, you would look up, for instance, lung clinic, and then you would find our actual website, our actual business, and then you would actually find the doctors underneath them as well. And we would rank both of them. And there were many times where if you looked up, for instance, lung clinic, you would find our doctor and our business sitting in the top 3 pack.
Yeah. All right.
But we did a lot of things that most people would be against, which is review gating and all that other stuff. We also did. We actually had, at one point, we started out with a terminal inside the building. And I told them, I said, can't do that. Don't need to set up a computer for it. Let everybody use their own phones. And we were at that point, we were giving basically incentives, which I know it's against the terms of service, all that crap. We were giving incentives away for the reviews, and we got review. We literally had 1 staff member that's all they did was handle reviews. But we got both. For me, the way I've always said it was, a lot of people go, well, what if my practitioner or my secondary listing winds up competing with my first listing? And for me, it was never an issue. I always look at it as, okay, if I got 3 slots up there and I'm dominating 2 of them, what's the problem?
3, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this is a small practice. So just touch on, domain names and phone numbers. Can I run the same domain name and the same phone number under each practitioner?
I would not.
Okay.
I don't. I mean,
So
it's
different
not something I do, at least for my take. So I've heard people doing it, but it's not something I do. So we had different phone numbers. We had different websites. We have different addresses. Our address would have the suites attached to them, etc. All right, Ruben, what's up, brother?
Hey, man. Actually, I want to draw attention to Paul's question in the chat. He said, if you report a listing will the listing owner ever know who reported it?
No.
Awesome.
I mean, unfortunate for me, I think that kind of sucks. I mean, it might be awesome in some instances, but for instance, I wish for Facebook, like even Facebook, I wish I knew who was reporting my ass. I'd send them a nice little cease and desist lawyer letter and take them to court in a heartbeat. And it's the same thing for me. I think if someone has the ability to report you on GMB, you should have the ability to see them. And if you have the ability to see them, that way I can respond to them. I don't think it should be, well, you know, like if you're reporting a pedophile or something like that, you know, or someone reporting an actual crime where you want to hide your identity. You shouldn't be able to hide your identity. I want to know who it is, you know, but unfortunately, Google in that instance doesn't do that. Same thing with the stupid negative reviews. There's certain aspects about Google I wish they would just come up to the 21st century, and then that'd be one of them. Yeah, that aspect you do know. If someone uploads a photo, I mean, but will you have their name, address, phone number? Nope, that's not going to happen. Any other questions? There was one question here. I'm pretty sure. I want to make sure we hit it all. I have a ranking. Service area business. I just want to look through it all real quick. Would establishing an online social presence, doing citations first, help verify the GMB faster? From my experience, yes, you know, that's my process. So along with the data aggregators and a lot of what I've told y'all as well, I verify most of the times when I mention stuff with someone like Molly. That's why I think me and her get along so well. But yes, an extension. Okay, any other questions? Shall we use a VPN when using a GMB from another country? I do not, and I manage, you know, hundreds. So, and I don't use a VPN when I'm managing them. That was from Neos.
So William, you just use your Philippines IP.
Correct.
You don't your VPS or anything?
Correct. The only reason I got some IP proxies because I figured, I said, well, maybe Facebook, and I found out today, but I said, maybe Facebook is getting me because of my IPs. Nope. I got new IPs, the VPN, VPS, all that. Nope. And I had one of my beloved clients send me a screenshot of the old group I was in and show me my armchair practitioners in there talking about me. So I knew it already, but I know why I get banned. So it had nothing to do with my IP. Same thing with GMB. For me, I've just never had to use IP proxies for it, or a VPN or VPS without any issues whatsoever. Let's get Harley.
Thanks for asking my question for me. I just want to make sure I'm clear. And I understand where you stand, get a different website for each service, but I just can't afford that right now.
I understand.
In my situation, I have the pressure washing category and that's it. And then in the product category, I put driveway cleaning, patio paver cleaning, and so forth.
Correct.
Okay. And then when I go to I claim the GMB, but not the GMB website. When I post the pictures into the regular GMB dashboard, that goes into the website as well.
The GMB website, yes.
So if I post a picture on GMB, then only do one or two of those a day.
Yeah, and see, that's where this is where I would say why I would say use separate websites, mainly from the fact, for instance, okay, if you're about solely, most of your money comes from pressure washing, right? And you also do pavers, and I start doing some GMB posts about pavers, right? All that goes into your Google business site. And then what's going to wind up happening is you're starting to fill your Google business site and your postings with data about pavers. So it kind of almost becomes a choice of, you can do that, but I wouldn't do it as often as your main moneymaker. If I was going to do them all, then what I would do is say, okay, now which one is your main moneymaker? And I would say, okay, if your main money maker is pressure washing, but I do make a little money from pavers or deck staining, then I would do deck staining, let's say once a week. And I'd mainly do pressure washing every other day. Or let's say it could also be a case of this. Well, pressure washing happens seasonally, which I know with you is the case. Seasonally, you do certain things and other times you don't. Maybe during the season where you're mainly doing pressure washing, all you post about is pressure washing. And then maybe during the season where pressure washing dies down and you're doing more of pavers or deck staining, then you post more often about deck staining. If you were going to do it that way, that's the way I would always, advise on doing it, and it's, that might not be the quote unquote best way to do it, but, that's the only thing you can do. And, you run with that. And let me know.
All right. If I just one other question with that, since before I took this class, I kind of stuffed everything in the categories. So patio papers, I've got a bunch of different things, and then I have a cleaner category. And then, do I take that stuff out slowly, or can I delete all that kind of all at once?
I would personally take it out slowly. I don't ever do anything with a GMB fast like that, mainly because, like she's talking about, do you upload 100 pictures at one time? Well, you theoretically could, and then you probably get, banned, or, they'll say it looks suspicious, and then they want you to do a reinstatement, re-verification, and you don't want to have to do that process.
Okay, thanks for clarifying a lot for me.
You're welcome. Let's go to Robbie. She's been waiting a bit. Robbie.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Along with the uploading of pictures, like that app you showed us, Canva, if you have a picture and a quote with a patient's, excuse me, a patient's quote on there, and you have the signed release, would that count as a picture?
Say that again.
Like a testimonial with a Canva. So basically, I had a patient.
Would that count as a picture? That
Yes.
would be, no, for me, that doesn't count as a picture. When I say pictures, I mean, maybe with Molly, but with me, when I say pictures, I mean physical pictures of, let's say you're out doing a pressure washing job, or you're doing a roofing job, or installing fences, or you're a mechanic and you're fixing an engine, something like that. Those are actual jobs of your actual location. Or I have a Christmas party, or I have an Easter event, whatever. Or you do for healthcare, you're at a healthcare festival. Pictures of you actually
we did surgery and clinic. That's it.
Yeah.
So kind of having a problem coming up with
yeah,
pictures.
whenever we did, when I did the multi-specialty group, we did almost every quarter, because I was ahead of marketing. We did every quarter patient appreciation events like that. And then, or even, have you ever seen a healthcare practice where they have a table out front and you're giving away documents, even pictures of stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah, we don't do it either, but I guess we could stage some of this. I don't.
Yep. And all you need to do is have your information there. And then we upload those as pictures. Now, in the same token, I'll take stock photos, or I'll take actual pictures like those and use them in my GMB posts. My GMB posts could be, Google testimonials, Facebook testimonials, whatever testimonials you want to use, or post about, let's say, cavity, come in for your dentist cleanup, come in for your orthopedic, have you broken your ankle, whatever,
Right.
some information, and then do that. So.
Okay, then they mentioned videos uploaded. Are those short
videos? They're not long.
What's the time length on those you recommend?
I only use like 15 seconds, and that's about it. I don't use it. And then again, I'm not using them I'm just solely doing them for some click-through rate manipulation type stuff and some, posts, but that's about it. And the longer videos I'll post on YouTube and, other places. So.
Okay. And then the practitioner listings, thank you for writing me back. You said to make separate ones for the different doctors. So for instance, I have, Dr. Kishan is in Dallas and McKinney. So would I say Dr. Kishan Dallas, Dr. Kishan McKinney?
Nope, you're not gonna be able to do it that way. It's gonna be a practitioner is the practitioner's name. From the way I used to do it. So your business name is, let's say, whatever whatever the niche is,
Scoliosis.
Scoliosis Dallas, right? And the practitioner
Uh-huh.
would be the actual doctor's name. You have very little control over that aspect because they're pulling it from different sources.
So then how do I make the same one in each location?
Just
Like I have one for Dallas, one for Arlington.
email me in your case and I'll show you.
Okay, thank you. And then I had one last question on categories. You guys mentioned to have one category, like for Dr. Wiesman, I have orthopedic surgeon and doctor. So should I just pick one of those?
Orthopedic surgeon and then doctor?
Correct.
I mean, for me, the way I do everything, and you've seen this in the class, I go, what is my competition doing?
Okay.
Who's the top three? What are they doing? What are the categories they're using? I use the same. And then I can tell you, for instance, when Clearly Eye Care, when not just them, other ones I've done things where I'll come in and they'll have 10 different categories, all about eye care, optometrist, eyeglasses, eye lenses, everything. And it's like, I understand what you're trying to do, but I also understand you can't be a Smith and Wesson type of a knife.
Okay.
You have to, it's a matter of, pick one thing. And you can have a couple of subcategories, but you don't need to have multiple subcategories, in my opinion. Someone that's doing that is diversifying way too much. Go ahead.
Okay. And the last question is, when you make changes, like I'll make changes, I'll come back and they'll be gone. So how do you make changes? I heard it earlier that you said make one change at a time. So
I generally try to make one change over a period of time and then come back and make another change. Sometimes what's going to happen is if you make changes and they're not being accepted, it's because Google's pulling data from another location. They're pulling data from other listings, your website. It could be, citations, tier 1, tier 2. It could be, especially with doctors, it will be from, I think it's called an MPI listing.
MPI number.
Yeah, I don't even, it's been that long and I still remember it. But MPI is where they pull most of that data from when it's the practice.
Well, like her description is her bio. So I just put the bio in there. I came back this week and it's gone. So I just put it in again. You
may want to check all of her MPI listings, because they are some of the hardest ones to work with that I have found, at least, unless you have, and the only reason they're hard is because do you have all the MPI listings and all the login information? And when I came in, when I came into this specific, practice, they had nothing. The guy didn't know SEO. He knew web design. He was a traditional marketer and I was the untraditional marketer. Everything I did is online, still today is online. And and when I come in, I was like, oh no, we need an Excel spreadsheet. It's everything.
Yes, I like your Excel spreadsheet
all of it.
idea.
So
I've definitely done that.
That's one of the reasons, because you could have an MPI listing that says one thing here. They'll say he's a pulmonologist, and another one that will say he's a lung cancer specialist.
Right.
He does both. He could do both, and then both MPIs will say something different based upon the information they're receiving. So, but yeah, send me an email. Let's see. I haven't talked. I'll get back to you, Nineos, but Matthew hasn't talked all day. Go ahead, Matthew.
Hey, how you guys doing? So I've got a question. This regards the Google readdressal form.
Yep.
So when utilizing that, say for instance, I've got a ranking renter in my area. It's not me, another guy. He's in a lot of the niches that I'm into. I can use the Google readdressal form to submit for the Google My Business listings, and that will take care of it pretty effectively. But as far as the actual website itself, these are keywords, city location websites. They rank well, and these are in every city. So what is and I've written about this within the content on the readdressals as I turn in the GMBs. they're all the exact same outline for the website. It's blatant what it is, but the readdressal doesn't seem to affect the actual site itself. Is there any? And I looked at the penguin.
You're gonna probably hate me for this, but I don't know if
Okay.
you'll hate me or not. But I would probably tell you then I would learn from them. You know,
Note taken. Note taken. So there's
stop
nothing.
trying to. If you can't beat them, what? Join them. And
Yeah,
the reason why I say that is because this is where I agree with Paul and some other people, is your time is better spent elsewhere than trying to get someone's listing removed, where I do understand why people will do it. But if someone's that effective at it, not just at that, but there's other reasons why their listing is not getting removed. And you may want to sit down and go, okay, why isn't their listing getting removed? It looks like spam to me, but evidently it's not. So what are they doing? What are the backlinks they have? What type of backlinks do they have? Do they have local backlinks, national backlinks? What type of citations do they have? What type of directories are they in? What's their description like? Are they got 250 words, 750 words? What type of keywords are you using in it? What type of backlinks? What type of interlinking structure? How is their URL structure set up? Are they using the Google Maps? Are they map stacking, cloud stacking? All these different things I can look at, and I could guarantee you if they're dominating like that, I can find stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to be, well, they've named something a certain way. It is very effective, don't get me wrong, but you know, that's not the only way. Especially with someone, and especially if you go to report them and Google's like, nope. And you've tried it repetitively too on top of it. So,
Well, I found something like back, I think maybe 2013 or so when they did the big penguin update. I found a penguin form, kind of like maybe an early version of the Google readdressal form, but it was just regarding the penguin update. But I think that was more for the backlinks, et cetera. But
back then was the backlinking is when they got rid of a lot of that, because that's when I got started right around before Penguin, but right around that same time, because it did hit me because I was in straight black hat SEO back then. That's what I got started in, was straight black hat. So, Neos, go ahead. Neos. Anybody else got any questions? And then we're going to be leaving.
I haven't raised my hand. I'm not
Your hand was raised, and then I just lowered it. I guess it was. Yeah.
Hey, William, I just wanted to say the citation. I don't know if anyone else had any problem, but the level 1 citation.
Yeah. Me and you had talked about it. There was one. The level 1 was not downloading, from what I remember. Either you.
Yeah, it disappeared.
Yeah, I'll go in there and I'll fix that while I'm uploading this video and stuff, because I got the tier 1, tier 2 in there, and I have if it's not working, then I'll fix it. Also, I know last time, and I'll go ahead and stop the recording, but we